Oh, this boy had the motherfucker came over here because he wanted to FaceTime sister and tell his sister that he see me or whatever. And while my man done got out the beach with her, the walking field. What? What you get out the water
I'm
for?
sitting here watching for how long? How long you gonna have a nigga in your face for?
What are you talking about? What?
What it was in your face for?
Nothing. They was asking me something.
For that long?
Yes.
Let's go.
What we leaving for? Why we leaving? You waiting me? No. For what?
There we go.
I'm sitting at the beach.
A shaky 911 call. A man's voice, panicked. She's hurt. She's not breathing right. I need help now. A beige Chevy Malibu, parked under a dim streetlight in Lauderdale Lakes. The door is slightly open. Inside, officers find a young woman slumped against the seat. She's barely breathing. Blood pools on the floor. Camera zooms closer. Her face is familiar. It's Girlalala, the influencer known for her viral glam tutorials and blunt honesty. But tonight, it's not a filter. It's real and it's bad. But what happened inside this car? And why was the person who called 911 already under suspicion? Surveillance footage from a nearby home, TikTok clips of Girlalala hours earlier, laughing, screenshots of her smiling in a pink hoodie. Then, a voice. This wasn't just a crime. This was a story millions online think they saw coming. Before the headlines, she was just Girlalala, a rising beauty influencer from Pompano Beach. She wasn't just pretty. She was funny, bold, resilient. Offline, she worked as a hairstylist, trusted by locals who knew her hands could transform anything. Online, she lit up screens with hair tips, real talk, and the kind of humor you couldn't fake. She was that girl you felt like you knew, one fan commented. She told the truth, even when it hurt. As her following grew, so did the pressure. Some days, she wore it like a crown. Other days, like armor. She said what we were all thinking, a follower recalls. She was real. That's why we loved her.
If you're hooked on unraveling the twisted truth behind these cases, hit that subscribe button right now. Every week, we dive deep into the darkest corners of real crime, the evidence they missed, the psychology behind the madness, and the questions that keep investigators up at night. Subscribe to True Crime Analysis and let's solve these mysteries together.
But even with all that love, there were moments she couldn't hide. We fight, but we love each other. It's easy to scroll past moments like that until later, when they start to feel like warnings. Was this relationship already breaking? Long before the final night? He was soft-spoken, almost quiet. The kind of guy who could blend into a room, unnoticed, until he didn't. His name was Shanoid White Jr., and to most people on social media, he was just Lala's boyfriend. They took photos together, posted goofy videos, exchanged corny captions. At first glance, he looked like any other young guy caught up in his girlfriend's rising internet fame. But behind the ring lights and TikTok filters, something else was brewing. Friends say he could flip moods fast, calm 1 minute, distant the next. He was unpredictable, said one. Not loud or aggressive, but you never knew what would set him off. As Girlalala's online presence exploded, fans began to notice something strange. In certain videos, she looked different, tired, a little guarded, one eye slightly bruised in a vlog that was later deleted, a bandage on her hand in a makeup tutorial that cut off early. At first, it seemed like nothing. Then fans started commenting, asking if she was okay. She never responded directly, but she didn't deny it either. In one live, she said quietly, "We argue a lot, but we're working through it." That became a pattern. "We argue a lot." She said it more than once, almost like she was trying to make it normal. In private, some friends say she confided more, that he was possessive, that he didn't like when she went out without him, that he got jealous when she posted too much. But she also said she loved him, that he was trying, that it was complicated. One friend recalled a moment that stuck with her. She told me, "He don't hit me or nothing, but sometimes I feel like I'm not even myself around him." That was months before the final night. Looking back, the signs weren't always obvious, but they were there, in the silence, in the apologies she made for him, in the way her energy shifted when he walked into the room during a lie. Nobody could say exactly what was going on, but the fights were real, and no one knew just how far they had already gone. The day everything fell apart wasn't peaceful. Not even close. According to arrest records, Girlalala and Lled White Jr. argued multiple times on the day of the incident. It wasn't just a one-time outburst, it was a chain reaction, building throughout the day like a storm ready to break. People who saw them that afternoon said the vibe felt tense. One witness said they were sitting in the car outside a friend's house, windows up, clearly mid-argument. Another neighbor claims they heard shouting coming from the Chevy Malibu hours before police arrived. Lled's version of events, as told to officers, was vague. He said they were fussing all day, that she had gotten upset, that she had pulled his hair. But when police pressed for more details about how the argument escalated, what triggered it, or why he didn't leave the situation, he gave no clear answers. One thing stood out to detectives immediately. He wouldn't explain anything about the gun. A registered weapon was found at the scene, but no permit, no explanation, no fingerprints besides his, and no indication that Girlalala even knew it was in the car. When asked directly if she had a weapon, or if there was a struggle over it, Lled clammed up. He shrugged, said he didn't remember, changed the subject, then refused to answer further questions. Police grew suspicious. If it had been self-defense, if something tragic had happened in the heat of the moment, why not just say that? Why hide details? Why go silent? One detective wrote in the report. His demeanor changed once we asked about the gun. He became evasive and uncooperative. The official story, whatever it was, wasn't adding up. And yet one thing was clear. There had been too many chances to walk away that day. Too many red flags. Too many signs that this wasn't just a couple's fight. As the hours ticked by, a timeline of chaos began to take shape, one that pointed to a volatile day that ended in irreversible violence. The tension had been simmering for hours, but the truth about what really happened inside that car was about to surface. It's one thing to hear a story, it's another to watch it unfold, minute by minute on camera. Surveillance footage from a nearby home captured a portion of that night. It wasn't crystal clear, but what it showed was enough to shift the entire investigation. At 9:47 p.m., the beige Chevy Malibu is seen pulling up under the streetlight. The car idles for several minutes. Headlights still on, no movement. Then, the driver's side door opens. Lled steps out. He's holding something in his right hand. At first, it looks like a phone, but when investigators zoomed in, enhanced the image, and froze the frame, it looked like a handgun. He paces beside the car, back and forth, stops, looks around. Then he leans into the open passenger door. Inside, Girlalala appears to be trying to get out. She's clearly distressed, leaning toward the open door like she's trying to leave. But instead of helping her, Lled physically places her back inside the car. Seconds pass. He closes the door. More pacing. He's on the phone now. Police later confirm it was not the 911 call yet. That call wouldn't come until several minutes later. This footage became critical, not just because of what it showed, but because of what it didn't show. The actual moment of the shooting wasn't on camera, but the behavior around it, the hesitation, the pacing, the delay, raised serious questions. Why hadn't he called for help immediately? If she needed medical attention, why waste time walking in circles? And most of all, why was she trying to get out? Police reviewed the footage over and over. To them, it didn't look like panic. It looked like calculation. The timeline was now a puzzle with missing pieces. But one thing was undeniable. There were critical minutes. Missing minutes, where everything changed. And the biggest question hung heavy in the air. What happened in those minutes? And why wasn't it caught on camera? At 9:58 p.m., Lled White Jr. approached a nearby house, frantic. He waved down a resident, shouting that something had happened to his girlfriend. The neighbor called deputies, who arrived within minutes. That's when the 911 call was officially recorded. His voice on the line was shaky, breathless. He told dispatch, "She's not breathing. I don't know what happened. I need help." To a casual listener, it sounded like panic. But to trained professionals and later prosecutors, something felt off. For starters, the timeline didn't match. Dispatch logs revealed that he waited before calling. Nearly 10 minutes passed between the time Girlalala was last seen moving and the moment he asked for help. 10 minutes when she could have been bleeding, struggling, fading. Then there was the tone. He sounded frantic, but never actually said what happened. Never mentioned a gun. Never said she was shot. When asked by the dispatcher, "Is she injured?" he paused, then answered, "Yeah, she's not breathing right." Investigators would later point out, if someone had just been shot multiple times, That wouldn't be your first answer. One officer said it felt like he was performing, like he was trying to sound panicked, but didn't want to say too much. Even more troubling, when deputies arrived and followed him to the car, Shanoy didn't try to help her. He stood off to the side, let them open the door, let them check her pulse, let them discover what he already knew. She was barely alive. The contrast was chilling. Online, he was the quiet boyfriend in the background. On that call, he was the desperate partner pleading for help. But in person, standing by the car, he said almost nothing. The narrator returns, voice low and steady. Was he trying to save her, or simply control the narrative? By the time Shanoy White Jr. was brought in for questioning, detectives already had the autopsy report, surveillance footage, and a timeline full of inconsistencies. What they needed now was answers. In the interrogation room, he sat still, not crying, not angry, just blank. Detectives started slow. They asked about the relationship, the drive that night, the moments before she was shot. At first, his answers were simple. We were just arguing. She hit me first. I didn't mean for anything to happen. But when they pushed for more, how she got shot, where the gun came from, why he waited to call 911, his story shifted. He said she pulled the gun. Then he said he didn't remember. Then he said maybe it went off by accident. Each version clashed with the evidence. Detectives paused the interview, left the room, came back with printouts of the surveillance images. They laid them on the table. You're holding the gun here, one detective said. You're standing outside while she's still alive. You don't help her. Why not? Shanoy stared at the photos, didn't speak. His shoulders tensed. He asked for water, then asked if he could leave, but he couldn't. Because by then, he wasn't just a witness. He was a suspect. The detectives pressed harder. You didn't try to save her. You lied about the fight. You hid the weapon. So what really happened in that car? That's when he stopped talking, refused to answer, stared at the floor, silent. Later that night, officers made it official. He was placed under arrest. The charges were serious: second-degree murder, unlawful possession of a firearm, and tampering with evidence. Back at the station, one investigator quietly told another, when we re-examined the video, the case flipped. Because it wasn't just about the violence. It was about the moments before it happened. The look in her eyes, the way he blocked the door, the silence after the shots. This wasn't just a loss. It was a pattern, broken too late. When the autopsy report came in, everything changed. Until then, there were still whispers. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe she reached for something and it went wrong. Maybe it was heat of the moment, one shot, a mistake. But the truth was harder to explain. Girlalala had been shot multiple times. Not once. Not in a panic. More than once. The bullets didn't match the story Shanoy told. He said they were arguing, that she got aggressive, that things happened fast. But the forensic report painted something colder. One shot entered from the side. Another struck her lower chest. A third grazed her upper arm. And the fourth, fatal, entered at an angle that suggested she was seated, turned slightly away. There were no signs of a struggle inside the car. No defensive wounds. No broken glass. No overturned belongings. Just her body, slumped, blood pooled in silence. Even the placement of the gun raised eyebrows. It wasn't tossed on the seat or dropped in panic. It was tucked beneath the passenger seat, as if hidden. Investigators believe she was shot inside the car, then left to bleed out while Shanoy waited. Waited to call. Waited to move. Waited to say anything at all. The timeline also didn't line up. Forensics estimated the shots were fired at least 5 minutes before the 911 call, which meant he had time. Time to help. Time to scream. Time to do something. But he didn't. One investigator later said, it was the silence that got me. No attempt to save her. No CPR, just silence. That silence became louder than any excuse. The narrator speaks again. Evidence pointed to one conclusion investigators couldn't ignore. This wasn't a fight that went too far. This was something else entirely. To the outside world, they looked inseparable. Goofy couple videos. Late-night car chats. My man, my piece, she wrote once. But beneath the Instagram captions and smiling selfies, there was a different reality. One that fans only started piecing together after she was gone. Old videos resurfaced. Ones where Girlalala wore heavy makeup on one side of her face. Others where her energy felt off, like she was performing through pain. In one clip, she adjusts the camera, laughs nervously, then glances behind her shoulder. It's subtle, but fans started noticing those glances. There was one video that hurt more than the rest. She says softly, "He don't like when I go out. Says people look at me too much." She smiles through it. A joke, maybe. But her eyes aren't smiling. That wasn't love. That was control, disguised as concern. As her fan base began digging, more patterns appeared. The sudden deletions of live streams, the gaps between uploads, the vague captions about needing rest, but her friends saw more. In voice-acted interviews, one of them remembers, she used to say she was tired all the time, but never just from work. It was him. He'd drain her, make her feel small. Another said she loved him, but she feared him too. We all saw it, but she didn't want to hear it. There's one moment in particular, a video now seen millions of times, where she tries to explain why she stays. People don't understand. We've been through a lot. He got stuff to work on. She's crying, not yelling, just exhausted. It wasn't a dramatic breakup or some on and off mess. It was deeper, slower, the kind of emotional erosion that wears down a person until they forget who they were before it all started. The narrator's voice slows. The truth about their relationship was darker than anyone realized. It started as a whisper, a few TikToks here and there, but within 24 hours of the arrest, the internet caught fire. Justice for Girlalala was trending. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all flooded with heartbreak, rage, and disbelief. Fans posted clips of her old lives, selfies, moments where she laughed so hard she cried. Some people had followed her for years. Others had just discovered her days before the tragedy. Now, millions were mourning a woman they'd never met, but felt like they knew. She didn't deserve this. He stole her light. This is what people ignore when it's happening to Black trans women. The comments weren't just about grief. They were about a pattern. The silence around domestic violence in LGBTQ+ relationships, especially involving trans women. GLAAD and other advocacy groups stepped in fast. They issued statements urging media outlets to respect her chosen name, avoid deadnaming, and center her identity in the reporting. Some publications listened, others didn't, and that only fueled the anger. In live streams and threads, people pointed out how the narrative would have been different if she weren't transgender. She would have been on the front page. Why isn't this everywhere? Then came the online detectives. People began piecing together the timeline, hour by hour. Someone found the live stream she'd deleted months ago, the one where she hinted that she wasn't safe. Others pulled screenshots, comments, fan messages. It was like a virtual crime scene. Everyone contributing, everyone analyzing. But what pushed the internet into full obsession was a video, one no one had paid attention to before. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't dramatic, but it said everything. The narrator leans in, voice dropping, and then someone found a video that changed everything. It wasn't a new video. In fact, it had been posted months earlier, then quietly deleted, like so many others. But someone had saved it. The footage was grainy, filmed from a bathroom mirror. Girlalala stood in a hoodie, no makeup, her hair wrapped up. This wasn't the glam Girlalala fans were used to. This was the raw version. The version she only shared when she was tired. Of people, of pressure, of him. She lifts her sleeve. A faint bruise is visible near her wrist. She doesn't explain it. Doesn't cry. Just speaks into the phone. We always fight, but he always comes back. She says it softly, almost with a smile. Then she looks down. I know I shouldn't let it slide. I know. Another pause. But it's hard when you love somebody. The video doesn't end with some dramatic warning. It ends with silence. She stares at herself in the mirror, like even she doesn't know who she's looking at anymore. Once this video surfaced, everything shifted again. Prosecutors later cited it as possible evidence of ongoing abuse, arguing it showed a long-term pattern of emotional and physical harm. Fans called it the video that said what she never could. Comment sections filled up within hours. She was crying for help without saying it. She knew it was dangerous. This should have saved her. But it didn't. The worst part? She'd posted it in plain sight, and nobody really saw it until it was too late. The narrator returns, voice low. Was this tragedy preventable? The answer doesn't come, only the echo of a question that's still being asked. In the weeks after her death, something happened that no one could have predicted. It wasn't just mourning. It was movement. Memorials popped up in Pompano Beach, outside her salon, in front of the old apartment she used to film from, even online in digital spaces where she once made fans laugh with nothing but a wig and a ring light. People didn't just remember her. They honored her. The Black beauty community posted tribute reels, tagging her in hair tutorials and makeup looks she'd inspired. LGBTQ+ groups hosted candlelight vigils. At one in Fort Lauderdale, a speaker said she wasn't just an influencer, she was a mirror. We saw ourselves in her. But this legacy wasn't only about beauty. It became a spotlight on what's often ignored, the deadly intersection of domestic violence, trans identity, and silence. She was loved online, but in real life, her cries for help were overlooked, questioned, minimized. GLAAD released a statement urging people to remember that Black trans women face some of the highest rates of fatal violence, and that these stories too often get buried under the weight of bias, misgendering, and media neglect. Her name was spoken in state meetings, on podcasts, on protest signs. Meanwhile, Shanoid White Jr. remains in jail, awaiting trial. His attorneys continue to claim self-defense, but the public isn't buying it. Not after the footage, not after the bruises, not after the silence, because now everyone sees it clearly. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't sudden. This was a slow, visible unraveling, right in front of us. The narrator speaks one last time. Behind every viral video is a real human life. Behind every smile is a story you may never see. The screen fades to black. Then a final message appears. If you or someone you know is in a dangerous relationship, reach out for help.